Good morning, Vicki.
Hi.
Welcome to the Charity Hub podcast. This is podcast number 3. So I've got a couple of notes. So I have you down as the CEO of the Sleep Charity, TEDx speaker, pilot lighter, co-chair of Small Charity Advisor Board, and lots of other things. So I'm just going to get straight into it. I'm going to start talking and then we'll elaborate on some of the other stuff in a bit. So my first question would be, what motivated you to establish the Sleep Charity in 2012? And how did your experiences as a teacher influence it?
So it was desperation that motivated me. My eldest didn't sleep and it led me down a pretty dark path. And I was trying to find support and there was just nothing out there. And basically I fell into setting up a charity. So I started to research sleep, found ways that could help and just helped people sort of on an ad hoc basis. I'd get emails or Facebook requests saying, I've heard that you do stuff with sleep, can you help me? So it was really informal. And as it started to grow, I thought, I'm going to set a charity up. I had no idea really what I was doing. I'd worked in the voluntary sector sort of briefly, but I didn't really understand how complicated it would be. Yeah. I was very naive. Because, my background is teaching. So I qualified as a teacher and I taught in special schools for many years and also worked with the diagnostic team. So I worked with a lot of children who were on pathway for diagnosis around autism. And I think that came into it in terms of understanding some of the issues that children face, some of the issues that families face as well. Yeah. So that background was important in terms of the work that I do with children and sleep. But I'll be quite honest, with the charity stuff, I was winging it.
Like most of us.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's pretty fair to say you've winged it pretty well. So how's the Sleep Charity in itself evolved since its inception, especially with the impacts on the families in South Yorkshire?
It's evolved massively. So when I first started out, it was all voluntary. So we didn't have any staff. Everything was run by volunteers. And I was really fortunate that Doncaster, the council, they really listened to me when I was speaking about how important it is that families have sleep support. And I guess they took a bit of a risk as well on me because they gave me a small amount of funding to show what we could do. That was, I don't know how many years ago now, probably coming up for 10 years ago. And since then, we've had a sleep service in the area. So every family in Doncaster can access our support free of charge, which is what my vision is for the whole country. Yeah. But it's evolved over time. So now we are the Sleep Charity rather than just the Children's Sleep Charity. So we can offer support to anybody who's got a sleep issue through sort of our national helpline. Mm-hmm. But there's lots more that we need to do. So in South Yorkshire, there's areas where there isn't sleep support. There's areas where we've trained practitioners to offer support, but the families then have to be on their caseload. Yeah. So it's something that we're still addressing. We recognise there's a long way to go. It's still a bit of a postcode lottery, unfortunately.
Yeah, and what are you at to staff volume now? How many people have you got on helping you?
I lose track of numbers. Yeah. I think we're employing about 15 at the moment, but we've also got freelancers, probably around about 40 freelancers all over the country, because we never quite know where the funding's coming from, what the projects are going to be, and we've got people with different specialities. So we'll have, for example, somebody who's got a specialism around sport and sleep. We might have somebody who's got a specialism around psychology and sleep. So it's all quite complex. So we need lots of different people out there to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the work.
Right, okay, that's great. Could you also now discuss the significance for the Sleep Charity itself in being featured on recently ITV Calendar and on the BBC?
Yeah, the media stuff's really important because it raises our profile, it raises awareness. So firstly, it's important because if you've got a sleep problem, you often feel quite isolated. You think you're the only one with it and it's not talked about. And especially if you're a parent as well, you can feel quite guilty, like you've done something wrong.
Yeah.
And it's really, really common. So like up to 40% of kids have got sleep issues, and the same number of adults have as well.
Right,
So actually putting it out there on TV shows that you're not on your own. There are other people going through similar, and there is some support available. And it also helps us in terms of things like campaigning. So we want to raise awareness about sleep issues and the need for support, because we need changes at a government level.
Yep.
And hopefully there'll be some funders out there who might see us as well, because we need money to be able to do this. And the need's massive. So it helps us in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, that's a dream. So what would be significant markers or things to look for children or adults with sleep issues?
What's really important is how you feel when you wake up, how you feel during the day. So people get obsessed by how many hours sleep should I have? And it's all variable. You know, some people need less, some people need more. It's about how you feel, how you're functioning, whether you are seeing signs of sleep deprivation, you know, if you're feeling tired, if you're feeling that you're kind of nodding off in the day. Although hyperactivity is also a sign of sleep deprivation, and we see this particularly in children. So families will say they don't need sleep because look, you know, they're hyper, but actually that can be a symptom of sleep deprivation. And you can check for symptoms in all kinds of different ways, like your concentration, like how you feel, but also in how you look. So there is such a thing as beauty sleep. And there's research out there that shows the difference in people's appearance sort of when they are well rested and also when they're sleep deprived.
Yeah.
So it's looking for these signs to see if there is a sleep problem or not, rather than thinking, well, I've only had like 6 hours and I should be getting 8. Because then what we get is stressed about it, and you can't force sleep. The more you try to go to sleep, the harder it is. It's not something we can control.
Yeah, and what are some of the detrimental effects if we don't actually adjust or try and fix our sleep patterns?
It's a really depressing story, to be honest, because it impacts so negatively on so many things. So it impacts on things like mental health. We know that if we don't get the right amount of sleep, that actually we can become anxious, depressed, can even have episodes of psychosis in, you know, real extreme cases. It can impact on physical well-being. It's been linked with things like Alzheimer's, cancers, all sorts of depressing things. I prefer to flip it and say, what are the benefits of getting a good night's sleep?
The next question, but I'll let you know.
There we go, I'm ruining it.
Go on, you lead into it, that's fine.
So I flip it and go, actually, if we get a good night's sleep, we look better, we feel better, we feel calmer, we feel more able to make decisions, we cope with stresses of life better, we can concentrate better, we can retain information, our weight's more likely to be stable because we're releasing hormones during sleep. So children are more likely to grow in line with the developmental stage because they release the growth hormone as well. Right. So there's so many benefits of getting a good night's sleep, which probably aren't recognised in our society, and we concentrate on the secondary things. So we will concentrate, when I say we, it's like where the funding goes. There'll be a big drive about obesity. But actually, if we can improve sleep, what can we do for obesity? You know, there's big drives around mental health, which is good. But if we can improve sleep, then we start to feel better. So actually, we don't want to be putting a sticking plaster over some of these things. We want to get into the core of it, and sleep improvement can just have a massive impact on all areas of life.
So would you say sleep is probably one of the core things we need to be looking at to fix the whole thing? Like you say, you know, depression and all the other mental health issues at the moment. Do you think that has to be incorporated into people getting better for themselves? Yeah,
absolutely. So we need to give it the same sort of level of importance as things like nutrition and exercise, because we can accept that if somebody's depressed, the sleep's going to be tricky. Absolutely it is. But what we need to be doing is giving people sleep information right from very early days, so that when sleep does go wrong, and it does, like it goes wrong for everybody at some point, we've got the tools to get it back on track as soon as possible. Because if you don't get it back on track, then you can get really entrenched sleep problems. And I think a massive difficulty we've got is we're not taught about sleep properly. When I think back to my school days, which I wasn't a fan of, I spent hours, learning about things like algebra, which I've never used. But if I'd have known about good sleep practice, that is something that I could have used every day in my life, passed on to my children, and had a healthier life and better well-being.
Absolutely. I totally agree, because as a child, being one of those hyperactive children, and even as a young adult, I remember saying, I'll sleep when I'm dead. 4 hours, 5 hours, 3 hours. I'm like, I can survive on that. I'm functional. But what are the long-term and maybe some short-term effects of us having that sort of routine and sleep pattern where we just disregard it and probably get half or less than what we probably should be getting?
I mean, there's all sorts of consequences, even if you just think about health and safety. So there's accidents occur because of sleep deprivation. When you look at figures for road traffic accidents, things like people working at height and the risk of falls, there's huge consequences. But we do still have this culture of, sleep's for the weak. Well, actually, no, it's not. And as parents, we've got this culture of, if you're good, you can stay up late. So what we're actually teaching our children is, if you behave well, I'm going to sleep deprive you. Well, let's just strip that right back, because sleep deprivation is used as a form of torture. And it's done because it's effective. And then, then what happens is these parents go, keep her up for an extra hour at the weekend so that I can have an extra hour's lying. I'm like, okay, does that work? No. Well, no, because it's working against body clocks. So all that's happening is we're sleep depriving our children, and we're teaching them things like sleep's like not important, sleep deprivation's okay, or we're teaching them things like, if you don't behave, you'll go to your bedroom. Well, no, we want our bedrooms to be a lovely place associated with relaxation and calm.
Place of solitude.
Exactly. But we're telling them, you'll go to bed early, because we're saying it's some form of punishment. And we've just got to change the whole narrative around sleep, because of course children then resist bedtime if that's the lessons that we've been giving them. So we need to really promote sleep as something that's a positive and enjoyable thing to be doing.
Yeah, well, it is when you get to do it. So all right then, so off the back of that, what would be a few of your top tips for people with getting a new sleep routine in, or things that they could be doing to help get themselves to sleep and maybe even stay asleep?
Yeah, so probably the first thing I'd always say is there aren't any top tips, because everyone's an individual. So people will say, I've tried sleep hygiene, it doesn't work. Well, it's probably been that things have been tried at the wrong time. So it's thinking about your own sleep needs. It's thinking about, when do you feel tired? Because that's probably your body clock, that's kicking in. So it's no good deciding, I'm going to go to bed at 10 o'clock. And this is the same with a child. If you're not falling asleep till 1 a.m, because that's where your body clock is right now. So it's accepting where you are now, and it's gradually moving that bedtime backwards. So going to bed maybe 15 minutes earlier.
Right.
But also tweaking it at the other end of the day. So if you're staying in bed in the morning to catch up on that sleep, then starting to wake yourself up sort of 15 minutes earlier, so you can move your circadian rhythm around. It's thinking about what you do before you go to bed. So avoiding sort of stimulating activities. And people will say, well, I watch TV and it helps me to chill out. Well, actually, that can be very stimulating. And some people will be listening thinking, well, I watch TV and it's fine. And it probably is. So if they don't have a sleep issue, carry on. But if someone's got a sleep problem, then turn screens off for that hour before bed, because we need darkness to produce melatonin, the sleep hormone. Don't go looking at sort of phones or screen activity at all because of that light, and also because of the stimulation. And do something calming. So hand-eye coordination activities are usually ideal for calming. So people do different things depending on what they're interested in, but stuff like jigsaws or crafty type stuff in a dimly lit environment so that melatonin can start to produce.
Right.
And avoiding sort of stimulants at bedtime as well, so alcohol, like nicotine, caffeine, choosing sleepy foods is what we call them, and there's a whole list on the charity website.
Right, okay. And what is the website?
It's www.thesleepcharity.org.uk.
There we go, perfect. So what would you say are some of the key successes and outcomes of the Doncaster sleep service model?
So we are able to save the economy money, so the local economy. So we are able to save in GP times. We're able to save times around paediatrician appointments because, families go to the paediatricians, they've got a short sort of slot. And if you start to talk about sleep, it's not a quick fix. So it takes us a good hour to unpick a sleep issue.
Right.
So we can save the time there. Successes are also around reducing melatonin prescribing. So although we do produce it naturally, it can be a prescription drug and it is prescribed to children if there is not sort of the behavioural support available.
Right.
So we are preventing children from going onto that drug, which is a huge positive because, no parent wants the child to be on medication if it's not necessary.
Yeah.
And the feedback that we get from families is that it's been life-changing for them. Bedtimes has been really difficult, traumatic in some cases, with children really resisting sleep. We've had families where parents have split up, they felt huge pressure. Families where one of them has had to stop working because they're so sleep deprived they can't carry on. Yeah. And the success rate is really, really high. And then when you hear how it's changed lives, that is just so rewarding to know that you've given that gift of sleep to that family, and the knock-on effect is huge.
Yeah. So on sort of following on from that then, in 2019, won the Queen's Award. For voluntary service. How did that award itself impact the charity? Did it not?
Yeah, it did massively. So the Queen's Award, it's like an MBE for charities, so it's the highest award that a charity can get. And, it's a tough assessment process, as it should be. So it's like a seal of approval, really, that we're doing the right things, that the governance is in place. And aside from the huge impact it had on morale, because we're so proud of that award, it's there on our website. It gives funders some sort of confidence in us as well. Yeah. So we definitely found that it was a turning point for the organisation, that we started to be more successful in terms of funding bids and partnership opportunities as well from that point onwards.
So you'd actively encourage charities, CICs, to apply with now King's Award, obviously, to try and get some benefit from that?
Yeah, I would. If they feel that they're at the right stage and, they need to be at a point where they've got excellent governance in place and lots of evidence to support the application. But I think it absolutely should go for it. And I don't think enough local organisations do, which is disappointing because there's so much good work that's happening, across the area that we need to be celebrating it and shouting out about it. So, people should apply. Agreed.
Hopefully we can help some people with that. So could you elaborate on the manifesto that launched in the House of Commons and its core message?
Yeah,
a bit of a tricky question for you.
It is. So we've launched a couple, 3 I think now. So we launched one back last January. So a big part of our work is campaigning, and we want to raise awareness about sleep because sleep isn't regulated in the UK. So anybody can set up and say they're a sleep coach, practitioner, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And unfortunately, that happens. So there's a lot of misinformation about sleep. And if you're sleep deprived, you may be vulnerable. People don't know what to believe. They may be spending a lot of money on advice that doesn't work. So we really want to bring that to the government's attention. And we launched a Charter for Sleep Equality last January. So we want organisations to sign up to this and to recognise how important sleep is for well-being. So we've also got a Sleep Ambassadors course, which is using the model of Mental Health First Aid England, but focusing on sleep, so that organisations have somebody within their role who can offer sleep information to staff. And that's particularly important, again, from the health and safety side of things, as well as to increase productivity, because if you're sleep deprived, you're not going to be as productive too. So it's a win-win for sort of corporate organisations. And prior to that, we'd launched the Wake Up Call, which was in March 2020. We just got it in before everything locked down for COVID. So this was trying to get the nation to wake up to the importance of sleep.
Yeah.
And then the previous one was around children's sleep and raising awareness about how important sleep is for kids so that they can reach their full potential. You know, we see things like schools trying to work towards increasing attainment, increasing attendance. Well, actually, if they could improve sleep, these things would naturally increase as well. But unfortunately, there's not the investment into sleep from education still.
Yeah. And can companies sign up to this, get involved? How would they do that?
Yeah, so it's all there on our website. So there's information about the Sleep Ambassadors course on there, and they can also sign up to the Sleep Charter on the website too.
Good stuff. We'll make sure we put something in the links for that. So as chair of the charity's voluntary advisory board, how do you ensure the quality and the materials and services offered?
So this is the NCVQ board. Okay, so this is a new board that I only sort of set up last autumn time. So at the moment, what we've been doing is we've been consulting with small charities. So it's a national thing, and it's really around getting the voice of small charities, so that we can develop resources in the longer term and know where these resources are going to be housed. Because I think one of the challenges that we've got as small charities is everything's different in each region. So some towns, some cities have great support and others have less support. Yeah. Again, it's that postcode lottery. And that's not okay, because small charities are fundamental to our towns, our cities, and they need to be able to access support and high quality support. So we've been working on listening to the voices of small charities all across the country. And there's lots of work going on behind the scenes at the moment around, there are resources already created around where these are going to be housed, how small charities are going to be able to access these. But it's really important it's done in collaboration with small charities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, rather than a larger organisation coming in and sort of taking over, which is why I was so keen to be involved on the board.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, I've no doubt she'll do an absolutely incredible job as always. So could you give some insights into the sleep poverty campaign and its effects in addressing sleep issues, and especially those in financially challenged communities?
Yeah, so the sleep poverty campaign came about because our sleep practitioners were telling us that they were finding it harder to work with families because they didn't have the basics that they needed sometimes. So things like curtains at the windows, or even a bed. And it's like, how can a child sleep well if they've not got those things in place? So we were really fortunate that we got a small amount of funding, £2,500 from CareTech Foundation to pilot a scheme in South Yorkshire. And we decided to call it sleep poverty rather than bed poverty, because sometimes it's more than just the bed.
Just the bed, yeah.
Yeah, and we had a great response from corporates. So we got over £60,000 worth of mattresses donated from various places like Silent Night. Gave us a large number of mattresses, and Mattress Online agreed to sort of be the warehouse facility and to deliver these across the region. And then we received applications, and, to be able to give somebody a bed or whatever resources are needed, to hear the feedback, it was incredible, because they were saying that they could go to food banks and get the food, but there was nowhere that they could get these resources. And quite often they not realise the impact it could have. So I'm thinking of like one mum who said she knew her son needed a bed, but they're quite an expensive item. And he was in a bed that was broken. So every night when he got in it, it basically collapsed again. And speaking to him once he got his new bed, he just said, Vicki, it's amazing. Like, my bed is so comfortable. I look forward to going to bed now. And I'm feeling so much better because I'm sleeping well. And that's absolutely priceless.
And have we got anything still running on that side of things?
No, not at the moment. So we are talking to Zavak, who are a charity that is set up in West Yorkshire, and they do sleep poverty work. And we're speaking to them about how we might be able to combine resources to be able to establish something that can go across the whole country, because this isn't just an issue in South Yorkshire. This is a national issue. The difficulty that we've got is around capturing the difference it makes. People are proud. People don't want to appear, for example, on national TV talking about the fact they can't afford these basics. And that's been a barrier because the TV did want to cover it. But we're not going to put pressure on people to speak in a way that makes them all feel judged or uncomfortable. There's also some work going on in the House of Commons around it as well. So we did get some questions put into the House about sleep poverty back in December when we were running the campaign. So we're hoping that, you know, the government may also pick up on it and be able to offer some support.
Let's hope so, eh? So how does the Sleep Well Academy extend the reach of your work, and what makes the training materials unique?
Yeah, we set up the Sleep Well Academy just over the last couple of months. So it's basically our training that we've put onto a different sort of website as sort of an arm of the charity. And we've developed all kinds of training over the years. So there's stuff on there for adult sleep with Professor Jason Ellis, who's like one of the UK's leading sleep experts. Well, one of the world's, actually. Right. I'm doing him a disservice there, sorry, Jason. There's sleep practitioner training, so for people who want to sort of offer the support that we offer in their local areas, so we get lots of health visitors, etc. on there. And what we're offering is unique. You know, we come up with new ideas. So one of the latest ones is a boarding school training package, because one of the things about sleep is it doesn't discriminate. You can have the most affluent family who've got sleep issues, and you can have the most disadvantaged family who've got sleep issues. And we recognise that when youngsters go to boarding school, it's a new environment. They'll probably be feeling anxious, stressed. And we spoke to boarding schools, and that's exactly what was going on. So there's a wide range of training materials on there that are all accredited as well. So it is a unique offering, and it's great for us as a charity because it's an income stream that comes in and helps to support the core work that we do.
And so, you know, we touched briefly right at the beginning, your other million roles, and so in addition to your role at the Sleep Charity, obviously you're involved in lots of different projects and different parts of the sector. How do these experiences influence your approach to charity work? Because you've obviously delved into quite a few different things.
For example, I'm a trustee. So I'm a trustee. I'm a big Barnsley fan, as you know.
I know.
I love my football. So I'm a trustee for their charity arm. And that's really important because it gives me perspective from a trustee's angle. Whereas I was just seeing it from like CEO angle before, and that relationship with the board. So it's really good for me to experience being a trustee and seeing it the other way around, and how the relationships and the dynamics work. And also that's really helped me to strengthen my knowledge as a trustee, and bring that to the table with the sleep charity. The stuff that I'm doing nationally with the NCVO and the panel, you know, that's made me more aware of what's going on politically. And it's given me contacts all across the country as well, which is always a positive because, you know, networking is so important.
Yeah.
So it's sort of bringing that knowledge back. And then some of the stuff that I do is I love sort of mentoring coaching, which I just do for fun, which makes me sound quite sad, really. But I do sort of take on a couple of people, probably once every 6 months, who I've seen out there who might be struggling, like charity leaders. And it's using my experience and what I've learned so far. And if I can help them, because I know how tough it was to set up a charity, I know how lonely it can be. You know, it's quite an isolating role being a CEO. So I do some sort of mentoring, coaching work as well, just because I love it and it interests me.
And how would anybody get in touch with you about that?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
That'll do. Vicki Beevers. Vicki. Right, okay, so one of the ladies we've actually worked with is Nikki Pattinson. And I actually saw your post on LinkedIn yesterday, day before about it. So I just wondered if you wanted to maybe expand on that a little bit, or how Nikki helped you.
Yeah, so I think I randomly found Nikki on Facebook, and she was talking about a group that she does for women of a certain age, of which I fell into that bracket. And
just over 21 then.
Yeah, absolutely that. And she was talking about identity, you know, and sometimes you can feel like you lose your identity as in terms of your work identity, in terms of as a partner, mother, all those things. And it really sort of resonated with me what she was saying. And I've not really invested in my own personal development. And I thought it was a really good time for me to do that. So I joined Nikki's course. And it was brilliant because it connected me with like-minded women. And it also gave me that space to reflect on what I've achieved, because I find that I'm on to the next thing and never really sort of celebrate that that's a great achievement, because I've got a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I want to do. So it gave me the time to reflect on achievements, but also to think about the future, think about my skills and where I might want to go in the future. And I found it really, really massively helpful. I felt like my identity kind of came back at that point, and I could see a lot more clearly sort of the future work-wise and paths that I might want to explore and go down.
Okay. So it sounds like a few of us probably need to sit down with Nikki then. So as we're coming towards the end, but could you, don't have to be 5, but give me around about 5 top tips for charities and CICs who are maybe looking to build and grow, maybe they're looking to start out, what fund they might have never applied for funding before. So if you've got just some even basic tips for those starting out, or maybe those that are slightly accomplished but looking for the next step.
Yeah, so I think ask for help is an important one. People in the sector are so helpful. It's a caring sector.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask for help. I would say network. It's really worth going to like stuff like the Charity Hub events, because it's the people that you meet, the conversation. You're welcome. It was subtle, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah. It's the people that you meet. It can open up all sorts of conversations and new doors. But also they become your support network. You know, you've got to have people around you who you can get in touch with and go, I've had a really bad day, or, you know, because it can be really lonely. So
like we do often.
Yes, as we do very often, yeah. So that's an important one. I think you've got to be resilient. So I was speaking to someone I'm mentoring at the moment last week, and, you know, every time they get a funding rejection, it's a real disappointment. Well, actually, you've got to expect it.
Yeah.
So what I do is I do a funding application, then I forget it.
Yeah.
So I believe I'm not going to get it, and it's next. That's how it is.
Right.
It's really, really tough out there, funding-wise. So it's nothing to do perhaps with your applications, although if you're not sure, get them checked out just to make sure. But
Definitely.
it's tough. So just keep resilient, keep strong. One of the things we're really bad at is blowing our own trumpets.
Mm-hmm.
So tell people how amazing the work is. Apply for awards.
Yeah.
You know, it's the seal of approval again that your work's good. Don't be scared of putting yourself forward, putting yourself out there. Being a little bit pushy at times, even though it might feel uncomfortable, because if you don't do it, someone else will be.
Yeah.
So celebrate your work really loudly, and make sure you're measuring your impact. That's key. You know, funders want to know how many people you've supported, what difference have you made. So make sure that's loud and clear across your website. Develop an impact report, and also put it all over your social media to shout out about how great you are.
Absolutely. Back that one up, because knowing from my own experience is something I didn't do early doors. But yeah, shouting about it, putting everything you can on social media, get your phone out, video your classes and the stuff you're doing. So yeah, that's probably one of the best tips. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to give you 60 seconds-ish to give a synopsis of you and the services you can offer, not just sleep charity, because as we know, you are very accomplished in many things. So I want you to talk about yourself for about a minute.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I don't know where to start.
I know. See, I got you on that one, didn't I?
Hard. Yeah. So, my background's obviously in teaching, and I've developed the expertise in sleep, but also I've got ADHD, and I've been doing some sort of work with people with ADHD as well, because quite often people don't have anyone to talk to.
Yeah.
I'm coming across a lot of people my age. When I say my age, like, it's my 50th year this year. Yeah, the big one. Who I started to think they may have got ADHD, but it wasn't discussed when we were kids.
Yeah.
So I'm doing a bit of like coaching around that as well, just on a voluntary basis, just because I'm interested in it.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do some sort of voluntary mentoring, coaching around the voluntary sector. So if people have got ideas that they want to discuss, my brain just fires ideas off. Some of them are absolutely awful, but there's like, the odd good one in there as well.
Always.
About how to develop models and sustainability for voluntary sector organisations. So yeah, that's basically me. And there is the sleep charity stuff, obviously.
That's definitely not basically you. But seems as though I only give you 60 seconds, I'll sort of let you off. Right, so we're going to come to the last two questions, which tend to be the most important. So, can you let me know what is either your favourite meal or cheese? Or does it combine both like our last one?
I once had lavender cheese.
No, that does not sound
pleasant. No, it was really, really nice.
Okay.
And I'm just thinking that's a bit sleep-themed, because cheese is really good for sleep. It doesn't give you nightmares. That comes from Christmas Carol. That's like they blame him seeing the ghost Ebenezer Scrooge on eating mouldy old cheese. It's not true. So lavender cheese was really nice, and I've been a bit obsessed by it ever since, and I can't find any. And now I'm thinking, did I really have it? But I'm sure I did.
It wasn't a dream.
Maybe it was a dream. Lavender cheese.
Right. So if anybody knows where you can get lavender cheese, please comment in the comments.
If anybody wants to send me lavender cheese,
even better, for free. And one thing we'd like to start introducing, just because one of my favourite podcasts is Diary of a CEO. With Stephen Bartlett, and one of the things he does is he asks his guests to leave a question for the next guest, which I think's quite good because it brings out different things from people. So the one for us now is, can you leave a question for our next guest?
How important is sleep to you?
Nice and short and simple and to the point. Vicki, thank you very much for your time, and good luck with everything you do as always.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Thank you.